Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. This is the Gaming Enforcement Agency, episode 96. As always, second slot at Unky Dunky. How are you this evening, mate?
Good, sir, mate. We're getting very close to that episode 100.
We are indeed. Can you confirm for me, is that Ali's guitar over your right shoulder? Is that a collector's edition item?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it goes with the statues up there. Actually, I don't play it quite as well as Ellie as well, especially since she lost that finger. Spoiler alert, but no, it goes all right.
You clearly haven't seen me on the controller when she's playing. It wouldn't be hard to beat that. Third slot of this evening is your good self, Bully. How are you, mate?
I am fantastical.
Excellent.
I am fantastical, and I do love the good props in the background as well, Unky.
Thank you, sir.
It is a thing of beauty, fellas. We're officially on duty. This evening's show, we have 1, 2, 3 games to cover, and then we go kicking in a newsroom door. Bully, tell me, how many doors did we kick in this evening, mate?
We've got 4 to kick in for this evening.
Beautiful work. Let's get into it, shall we? Games, interrogation, and deliberation. First up this evening, gee, I'm glad that auto switched. I hadn't checked it. Metaphor ReFantazio came out, about...
Last week.
Thank you, Bully. And I will just hand it over to you, Bully, because clearly I've got no idea about anything other than this game looks a lot like Persona. Mate, tell me things.
It's probably the best way to describe it is Persona in a fantasy land is probably the best way. There is some tweaks to it though, so it's not a one-for-one thing just put in a separate setting. But it's funny because I think for months leading up to it, the actual name itself, every time I thought of the game, I couldn't remember the name of it, and I thought, it's a bizarre name. It makes no sense. I can tell you after 10 or 12 hours in, it makes 100% sense. 100% sense. The name of the game is actually it's the core. It's the core element of the story.
All right, then tell me this: what is it a metaphor for?
It's basically, well, it's hard to describe without spoiling the story.
Fair call.
Part, but it's basically a metaphor for humans in essence.
Cool.
And how humans conduct themselves, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it without spoiling anything. But the gameplay, it's fantastic. This is one of the top of my list for most of the year. I've played all the other Persona games that have come out recently. They've all been fantastic, and this just adds to it. And as I mentioned before, it just tweaks a few things as well into it that enhances the gameplay. So Persona 3, the remake, came out earlier this year. That was probably as refined in the Persona series as we've got so far. But even playing through this, like, there's little things where you don't necessarily, because it's a turn-based combat, or the Persona games normally are, you don't necessarily have to go into a turn-based combat every time you come up against a group of enemies, especially if you're at level or slightly overpowered against the enemies you're playing against. So that's one thing that as you're going through the dungeons, it makes it a lot more fun to go through and a lot more enjoyable without that constant stop, start, just to do a turn-based battle where in 1 or 2 hits you've wiped out the opposition party and then you move on. So you don't have to go through that whole, phase in, getting your experience points and all the rest of it, and then phasing back out to continue. You can just basically do an action attack within the dungeon itself. It wipes out those lesser enemies and you just carry on. So
and you still get XP as well.
And you still get the XP and all the stuff that goes with it. So just tightening that up a little bit's really fantastic. The setting itself is absolutely amazing, and what they put together in terms of the actual setting of it. If you start playing through it, and you might be able to see on the screen with some of the gameplay shots there, it looks fantastic from my point of view, just in the general gameplay. But it's also got, instead of having cut scenes where you're just taking the characters out, they've pretty much animated a lot of the cut scenes to the point where you can put the controller down and it's like watching an anime. And that's how good it looks, and that's the setting that it sort of puts you in. But I'm really enjoyed it. As I said, about 10 or 12 hours in, so I've done the first sort of main dungeon and first main boss, done a couple of side quests and all that sort of stuff. It still carries a lot of the tropes that Persona does, in terms of you've got basically a set time within each day. So you've got two times each day where you can go and do activities of your own choosing for the most part. Sometimes there's story forced events that you have to go and do, but for the most part, you get 2 sections during each day that you can go and go off and do your own thing, spend time how you want to do it, whether it's, going to another separate dungeon on a side quest, interacting with your party and bolstering your stats up that way, or you can go around shopping and boosting some of your other skills as well. So there's plenty to do within that, but I suppose that's the one thing. And I'm yet to find so far, like some of the Persona games are really tight with their timelines, and if you miss something, that's it, it's done. Which I find really frustrating in a game that if you go through and play everything, you're talking a 100+ hour game in most instances, and from what I've seen, this is pretty much a similar sort of length. So to be sort of hamstrung by not doing something by a particular time, and then it might be in the first 2 or 3 hours of the game, you're now locked out of it for the entirety of the game. So that's one of the things I always struggled with the Persona games is managing your time in that fashion. But I don't know how you are, Unky. It's sort of, for mine, it seems a little bit more relaxed in that you don't have, there's some things that you've got hard settings on, but they'll give you 5 or 6 days to complete it. And from what I've seen, there's not something or a task or anything that you've been pushed into doing it, and because you've gotten to a certain section where you now can't use free time because you've got to go to a story section or whatever it is, and then you miss that out. It gives you enough time to get through all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of where I'm at. In terms of the game itself, I reckon it's top 3 for me this year so far, and it'll be pushing pretty close to game of the year, probably neck and neck with Final Fantasy, I would have thought.
Are you dual fisting anything with it, man? Or since this has come out, has this been your whole gaming life?
Yeah, going back to Balatro. It still seems to suck me in for a couple of games every night. But yeah, more or less, I've just been pumping through this. I did relent. I know, Unky, last week you were talking about Funko Fusion, and I think we finished the show last week, and I said, damn you, and then went and bought it when I picked up Metaphor as well. So I've played a little bit of that, but for the main part, it's just been Metaphor that I've been running through. It's been amazing. The story's fantastic and the gameplay's fantastic.
Are you using like a spoiler-free guide to help you not miss timed events?
No, not at the moment, because I did that with the Persona 3 remake that they did earlier in the year. I went through using a guide for that to try and not miss some of the stuff, and it didn't really spoil it as such, but it sort of took away from some of the gameplay, I think.
Yeah.
And the excitement of finding new things and seeing new things. So I've sort of just been playing through it. I did quickly check a guide this morning just to see the first sort of 20 or 25 days that I've got through whether I've actually missed anything, and I think I'm pretty okay. So I think there was one thing I'd missed, but I can go back and get it. So that's the only thing I've missed. And I think that's the way I'll do it, is I'll play through sections like a week or 2 at a time, and then just revisit the guide and then say, okay, have I missed anything? No, all good. Let's keep going.
Yeah, nice. And you're playing it as well, Unky? How are you finding it?
Yeah, no, I'm probably about the same length through Bully, maybe a little bit behind, mainly because I did the stupid move of playing through the demo, which your save was going to carry through to the main game. Only when I got probably maybe 3 hours into it, I realized that I was playing the PS4 version of the demo, thus also thinking that the graphics and load times weren't up to scratch with the PS5 version. Luckily, this game allows you to skip cutscenes and dialogue, so I managed to skip through that first 3 hours that I spent on the game in maybe 20 minutes, so I didn't lose a lot of that time, which was thankfully a godsend. But it just sort of, that's how this game sort of drew me in. Like, I sort of got to that main part after the start of the game, and I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I don't really like it. It wasn't drawing me in. I was like, I'll just give it a go because I know it's getting really good reviews, and I just found myself getting sucked into the story. They do a really good job with characters and character development and setting up the story for what is in the intrigue that you just want to keep playing and find out more. And then the natural gameplay stuff, they throw as Bully said to me during the week, they throw a lot of stuff at you at the start of the game, and you're expected to sort of absorb it all. And there's a lot of systems going on, and it can be pretty overwhelming, but they do it pretty well in a good cadence that you can kind of understand it, and then they sort of all just build on top of each other to create this gameplay experience. So I think I'm not even at the end of all the stuff and the systems they're going to throw at me, but the stuff that I've grasped right now, I'm so in love with this combat system, as Bully said, with the melee combat now, how you can just go into dungeons and you can just, take on smaller, tiered enemies and they just disappear off your screen. And, you can use your different melee weapons or magic weapons. They all have different kinds of abilities and the way they work in that open world as well and taking on those enemies. But it just throws that extra little bit of, difference that the Persona games have. And I think I've really enjoyed being in the fantasy setting for this as well. Like, yes, Persona I've enjoyed, but I've always found a bit hard to sort of be a character that's based in a high school when I'm far removed from that, being a 40-year-old man. So the Bully might seem different to that, but being in a fantasy world, even though you are playing as a character that's slightly younger than this, but you're surrounded by adults and it's a more adult story that's going on as well. And I think I've really sort of been drawn towards that as opposed to the schoolyard stuff. The fact that you're now a proper voice character as well, as opposed to being sort of the more silent protagonist, I think that adds a lot of weight to this story as well, and the story they're trying to tell without spoiling too much as well. But just a lot of adult themes through this game as well. And I think, yes, you got those in Persona as well, but just the way it's sort of surrounded by this sort of, fantasy world now, which I think I'd much prefer to be in than the Persona world. So, no, I'm really, really, really enjoying this game, and I can't wait. It's literally the only thing I've been thinking about playing. And every time I'm sort of, playing something else just for, a bit of a break, jump back into Astro, I just want to come back to Metaphor. And, there's a lot of reading involved, but I think the way the story's being told, if you're just a gameplay, purist, and that's all you want to do, I can see people like, getting bored with all that stuff. But for me, I really enjoyed the balance. And I think I don't see myself falling off it. I know it's a long game, being, 15 hours in at the moment, knowing it's a 70-hour game. It's always hard with, so many games coming out and trying to split my time. And I'm one of those games that will want to play everything. But no, I'm just loving it. I love the art style. I love the gameplay.
The art style in the city is phenomenal. It reminds me very much of Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush 2 does it?
Yeah, very.
Like the game.
No, it definitely does feel like that kind of sort of more sort of. It's like a painting almost, whereas you have the hyper colors of the Persona series all bright, and this is sort of a bit more washed out, sort of airbrush painting. It's really nice to be in, and the menu system in this is fantastic. The music is another thing. The Persona games have always had great music, but I find myself chanting along to the main battle theme in this and absolutely loving it.
Just a few bars, mate. How does it go?
I can't even. It's like it's almost like chanting. It's like I can't even do it without making myself look like a fool. But I get myself and my son are sitting there like watching the battles and just mouthing the chanting without even really knowing what we're saying. But it's just Bully probably had to speak to it as well. But I just love that main theme and chant for battles. Like it's up there with some of Persona's best, I think.
Well, don't speak to it, Bully. Chant to it. Give us a few bars, mate. Come on.
Well, I can't chant to it, but it does have that chant, but it's also got a big mixture of almost like rock music to it. So it's got almost like a rock music background with the voice over the top. Go as you're going into it.
It's awesome.
Now I want to go play Abe's Odyssey.
It's not quite as grating as that, I don't think.
And you folks are both playing it on PS5. I can see it's Xbox 360 footage we've got. Xbox Series X, footage. But you're playing on the PS5, fellas. How you find the DualSense?
Yeah, on the PS5, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's... Yeah, it doesn't really seem to have any... It doesn't make use of the adaptive triggers, but they're not really... they're more for menu selection and stuff like that. It's not in the actual combat itself.
Yeah, and that's what Bully was saying earlier as well, in terms of feeling like you've got more time to do the stuff that you need to do. I think it does feel like that. And I think to have those social link stuff like Persona, where you could go and chat to someone, not really know whether it was going to advance your abilities with them and stuff, this kind of tells you straight out that it will increase your connection with that other character straight away. So you're not wasting time at all doing that stuff. I think they've just cut out a lot of that stuff that probably annoyed players playing Persona, where you had to play hundreds of hours and then play it again to unlock all that stuff. I've heard from a lot of reviewers and stuff playing this game that you can essentially get the platinum with one playthrough. You can unlock everything by the end of the game. You will have all your, confidence up to like full by the end of the game. There's no missing out on stuff. So you've got plenty of time. And I think that's what the game does best at the moment, is allows more time to breathe within the game, as opposed to feeling like you're constantly rushed. Because I'm not a huge fan of time frames in games. Just they give me a time thing. It's one of my least favorite things, which is actually going to fall into the next game we talk about, because that's also time frame based. That doesn't annoy me. So there's a couple of games here now that are doing one of the main things I don't like in games, but I still somehow like the game very much.
How's this inventory management? Speaking of things I don't like in games.
It's fine. Yeah, unlock everything. There's no weight capacity or anything like that in this game. Yeah.
Very nice. That covers it all from my side, fellas. So, is there a time to complete? What's the full game? Or did you already say it? No.
I think full game platinum's 120.
Yeah, right. And you're both about 10 hours in, did you say?
Yeah, they're probably 12.
Probably 12 to 15-ish, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, slap a score on it. Obviously, you're only a 10th of the way through the game, but give us a score at this stage.
10.
Nice. Unky?
Oh, yeah, it smells like she can't see anything wrong with this game at all at the moment. So it's getting a 10 from me at the moment as well. And from the stuff that I've heard, it's only going to get better as well. So it's going to have to be a perfect score at this stage.
Excellent.
Well, and I think that's the that sort of first 5 or 6 hours is supposed to be the drag and the struggle
exactly.
part of getting into the story and working your way through it. So it's just really starting to open up now. So as you said, if it only gets better from here, and I'm sitting at a 10, this is right up there for game of the year for me.
It'll be just behind Helldivers 2, I'm sure, come game of the year discussion. Moving on then. Unky Dunky, let's go over to you, good surf. Lead investigation of your favorite timing mechanic in a game ever. Dead Rising Remake.
Yeah, it literally falls beyond everything I hate in games and having time frames and stuff to do games. But I think without the time frame in Dead Rising to do things in the day, it would take away from the experience of the pressure of what you have. Like they set you up, you've got 72 hours to, do what you need to do, save as many rescuers to get to the chopper that's coming to rescue you. And each day, get to the chopper now. Come on. Come on, Frank West. You can do it. Come on. No, so it's the game we loved back in the day. I still don't know how I managed to finish this game back when it first came out because I'm definitely better at games now. This is a hard game, and it's even made easier now with some of the quality of life stuff it's actually received. So, I mean, going back in the day, you couldn't pull the left trigger to aim down sights essentially from your gun like a third-person shooter. You couldn't move while you were shooting, which you can do now, which does make things a lot easier fighting some of these bosses. Yes, some of these bosses still have the old traps of being quite frustrating to hit and their hitboxes and the way they move, but that's sort of just, it's not a full remake as opposed to, like something like the Resident Evil remakes, but the gloss of paint it's got on it is definitely impressive. It's using the RE engine as well, so it does look very, very good. On the Dragon's Dogma 2 used it recently as well, also a very good looking game. And obviously the Resident Evil games as well use the RE engine, but a very pretty game. I just had forgotten how much I enjoyed these games. I'm a massive proponent for number 3 and even number 4, which a lot of people didn't like when we went back to Frank West. I actually really enjoyed all these games, and going back to number 1, without some of the crafting stuff that number 2 introduced, being a simpler time, but just playing a nice simple game, it's actually been quite refreshing to not worry about all that other stuff. It's just to get in there, find where the samurai swords are, beat the crazy clown and take his chainsaw, and that's always there when you go there to pick up when you want more, and working out all the quicker routes to go through to rescue the survivors, the crazy boss fights that you have and the crazy people you meet through this game. It's just a fun time. And, I'm a massive zombie genre game fan, and, this is what kicked it off for me in terms of the games. And it's only better now, thanks to its, shiny gloss of paint and, gameplay improvements they've added.
With it being on the RE engine, and we know they've got it singing for PSVR 2, what would you say, Unky, if there was a PSVR 2 mode in this where you were first-person Frank West?
As far as I could see it working, because you do pick up and can pick up pretty much any object in the game and use it as a weapon. So I could see that working in the first person and stuff. And given that maybe you take away the time frame, maybe you don't, I don't know. Time frame is probably good, considering a lot of people can't spend that long in the VR headset anyway without feeling sick. So maybe a timeline's good. Just don't make it an actual 72 hours, otherwise, fully might die.
With the amount of running around in this game, I don't think I'd last 3 minutes. Let alone
have you got your
72
stick
hours.
bags on hand there, Billy? Now, Unky, you've got to give me some pointers, mate, because this footage is me dying 3 times to the first boss. Oh, maybe it's the second boss, but I can't pass him. I've spent, I think, 3 hours at this point trying to pass this one boss, and I'm yet to do it. Any tips for me?
Well, considering my screen's currently frozen, I can't see on YouTube what boss is. The boss to me, and I'll tell you.
It's the sniper in the corridor.
Oh, okay. So you don't actually have to go after him straight away if you don't want to. I reckon I had a shotgun, or I definitely had handguns and stuff at that point. So I was popping him from sort of slightly further away. As well. And I had I think I went after the clown guy first. So especially if you can get those chainsaws from him and open up that shortcut to where he is. It opens up a lot of. You don't have to walk through the park area at all anymore once you do him as well. So my suggestion would be go after the clown, who's up sort of the top left-hand side of the map. Take him out where the roller cart things are. Once you beat him, you unlock the shortcut, which allows you to go sort of from one side of the mall to the other very quickly without going through that park area with the guys driving around in the car very frustratingly. And you can use those chainsaws, one of the toughest, weapons in the game. If you find one of the books in the bookstore, it'll last like ages before it even, puts a dent in its durability as well. So there's a few things you can do to make that boss fight easier, but those are my suggestions.
Nice, thank you. I haven't gone looking. Is it pretty much a 1-for-1 of the achievements or trophies? As they
I haven't looked. I don't think they've moved too much around. I've got quite a few trophies playing at the moment, but it is. I'd say it probably would be close to 1-to-1 for that. I've almost finished the game. I think I'm in the last chapter of the game now, so I'm pretty much right at end game and going after the final boss. So
if you spend a good hour and a half in the basement in the car trying to, what is it? You got to run over 50,000 zombies or something.
Yeah, you got to find all the bombs and disarm them. I've done all that, so that's very close towards the end of the game. So it'll way less frustrating than it used to be. My car did blow up sort of right towards the last bomb, and I had to leg it on foot from one end of that underground car park to the exit, which I was getting a bit, the bumhole was doing these ones a little bit. But I managed to make my way out and hit the cutscene. And Frank's obviously he's voiced by someone different in this game, so he sounds a little bit different. So for those Dead Rising purists that enjoyed the old voice actor of Frank, unfortunately he is someone different, but I think he does a very good job, just like all the other voice actors as well. I know they've changed a few things here and there with some bosses, just for some, this day and age probably wouldn't fit into the landscape that we are in. So they've changed a few tweaks there, which has made a few people angry. But at the end of the day, they're only small changes, and it doesn't really ruin the experience of Dead Rising, which is just a fun zombie romp.
Yeah, it certainly feels like I'm having the exact same amount of fun playing it now that I did then. It's a fantastic game. I'm enjoying everything about it except the frustrating bosses. And you're playing it on the PS5 as well, Unky?
Yeah, on PS5, yeah.
Did you get the deluxe edition?
I think, I did. It came with a few extra outfits.
Yeah, it was like
stuff.
16 or 18 outfits. I haven't gone through them. Does it have a Nathan Drake?
Oh, no, to my dismay, there's no Nathan Drake in here. Funny you should say that, actually. My main character in Metaphor ReFantazio has been named Drake, just to keep the convention alive, as long as he doesn't look like him. But no, there's some actually really cool outfits in Dead Rising.
Well, there's a couple of the Resident Evil ones, obviously.
Yeah, the Resident Evil, which is one of the ones I run around. You got Resident Evil. You even got the liquor where your character's literally got this gigantic tongue that sticks out. It's a bit weird, but they got some good Capcom characters and stuff in there as well, and some good pulls. But no, there's some fun outfits, and if you're going to spend a little bit extra, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. The only other tip I'll make here, I made it in the install video as well. For whatever reason on the PS5, the DualSense speaker is off by default. Go in there and turn that on, and that way every time he's on the walkie-talkie, it's coming out your controller instead of the TV speakers. For me, a little bit more immersive. I'm a big fan of it. So if you haven't already, Unky, I suggest turning that on.
No, you're a man to my own heart. I've already done that, and yeah, you're right. It's very immersive having that phone call come through the controller. It's awesome. I love when they actually implement these things, and it's not just a gimmick. It actually sort of enhances the experience.
Yeah. For me, trip down memory lane. As I said, I'm only about 4 hours in, 3.5 maybe. It's sitting at a good 7.5 for me. I'm absolutely loving it, but it's not really breaking any new ground. So 7.5 for me. As I said, about 4 hours in. Unky, yourself?
Yeah, probably the same. 7.5, 8 by the time you get to the end of it. It's a good time. It's obviously just an older time. It's not doing anything sort of groundbreaking new to make the experience any different. It's just a better version of what we've already played of an already great game. So it's just one of those ones when you've got a lot of other stuff coming out and grabbing your attention, I'll find myself getting back to it. But in the meantime, I've got Metaphor and still got to keep going on Silent Hill 2 as well.
Very good, mate. Bully, any questions from your side? Were you a fan of this back in the day? Are you going to pick it up, do you think?
I'm not sure. What you talked about at the very start, Unky, is the one thing that really put me off when it originally came out, is that hard time frame that you've got this big area to explore and all these fun things to do, but then you're on a hard time frame of, you can go and do this, but you don't really have the time to do it, and that's where
if you think you've got time, you've got time. If you've got time in Metaphor, you've got time. It's a similar kind of thing. Like you feel like because you've got that time, you've got to do stuff, but there is enough time to do all the stuff you need to do. And I've rescued so many survivors without really feeling too pressured. So
yeah, okay. Well, that was always my real hiccup with it, and I don't think I put a bit of time into the original version, but not a heck of a lot to sort of work through the dynamics of that. So if it's sort of the whether it's the same or that they've loosened it up the same as what we were talking about before with Metaphor, that they've sort of relaxed the timeframes a bit. I don't know if that sort of makes a difference, but yeah, it's probably one for me that it will be on the back burner for a little while with some of the stuff that we're going through at the moment and the suggestions you keep throwing my way, and I keep jumping onto oh yeah, okay, I'll go and buy that then. This is not another one I need right now.
I hope you're getting a commission off all these sales, Unky.
I wish I was.
I wish he was putting some of that commission in my bank account.
All right, fellas, that'll do it for Dead Rising. I'll take the reins, shall I? Stand back, fellas. Game 3 this evening, Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred. And just to be clear before we jump in further, neither of you blokes have gone hands-on with this DLC, have you? No, beautiful. Well, it's a short and sweet one anyway. Basically, it's a slightly new art style. It's very demonic, as the title sort of suggests. There's a lot more blood. There's a lot more gore in the zones, like the new zones for the areas, the new dungeons. There's, slightly new enemies and attack types, new armor sets, all the new stuff you'd expect, new quests, obviously, new storyline. Follows on from the first, from the Diablo 4 core game. I wasn't into that story then, so I haven't been paying too much attention to the cutscenes. They look great from an animation standpoint, but the characters don't resonate with me. I'm sort of not really there for the story. I'm there to run around and kill demons by the thousands. It's thoroughly enjoyable. There's, new spells and stuff as well. So if you were into your build, like I've got my, an ice mage that I'm playing here on screen. He's my main. I'm loving it. I haven't finished the DLC yet. I think I am 7.5 hours in, just grinding through it. But, grinding sounds the wrong word. I'm enjoying my gameplay through it, but it is just pure gameplay. I'm not there for the story. But it's a new look. It's a new feel slightly with the new spells and stuff. But ultimately, it's just more Diablo 4. So if you love Diablo 4 and were looking for a slightly new look, new zones, etc., it's down to the ground. I was very happy with I want to say it was $29. Bully, fact check me on that because I might be way off. I feel like it was $29. But for me, it was $29 well spent. Played through the core game, loved it, but then haven't touched it for, I don't even know the original release date of Diablo 4. Anyone?
No, okay. Is it now Game Pass,
June.
though, the original game?
Yes, correct. So the core game is in Game Pass. And then, I think, June, was it June this year or June last year? It must have been
June last year, and the expansion is $70.
Oh, I know why it was 30 for me. I had the bloody store credits from the, the Xbox Rewards program. I had some credits sitting there from that. That's what. Anyway, sorry, my apologies. But it plays flawlessly. There's no bugs or anything in it. Like they've absolutely stomped all the bugs out of Diablo 4. So absolutely enjoyable game. If you love Diablo 4, I say it's a no-brainer. Go pick it up. It's more of what you loved. Boys, any questions, or shall we kick in a newsroom door?
Let's go to news, I think.
All right, here we go then. If I can find a button. Here we go. News. Oh, that's probably going to be wrong. Bully, over to you, mate. News story 1, please.
News story 1. So a bit of back and forth. There was some rumors going around, as reported by a Game Rant, that Ubisoft's relatively new release in X Defiant, which is the online shooter game they released earlier this year, is just about to hit season 4, I think. And there was some discussion and leaking that after this season that Ubisoft were going to shut the servers down, which I'm not sure. What are they, 6 months in? They've had this game at full release. I know the beta was running for a while, but 6 months at full release, and it's another one along the lines of Concord that seems to have come and gone, and the player base has diminished rapidly from my understanding. But as of today, when I was just following up on the story, there's one of the Ubisoft executives has come out and said, no, we're still working on it. And they blamed the diminishing player base on lack of content and the continual bugs that are running through the game. I'm not sure if either of you guys really played this. I think I had a bit of look at the beta, I think, and maybe a couple of games when it came out, but it didn't really hook me too much, and it seems it really hasn't hooked anyone. And it's just another one of these that a lot of we've seen Sony try and jump on board with it, and a few other companies that are trying to chase that Fortnite
2014
style
gameplay.
Yeah, that Fortnite style gold mine. Then we're seeing more and more often that it's just falling over in short amount of time, and they're at that point you've got to weigh up. Are you just going to pull the pin on it and walk away, or are you going to try and keep putting money into it in the hope that you can turn it around like that? And to be fair, like they did with Rainbow Six, that was pretty poor at launch, and they've pumped that a lot of content into that over the years, and that's still going strong. So maybe.
Well, Ubisoft's struggling at the moment. I mean, the poor reception to Star Wars Outlaws, which I know they keep, they've patched it a few times since. And I don't mind the game. I think it's a perfectly fine game. It's a classic 7 out of 10 game. Has moments where it sort of maybe reaches higher echelons, but then they're pushing back of Assassin's Creed as well now, and now this they don't seem to be supporting it or even advertising it anywhere. I know there was a massive advertising push, and that's you saw it at all the conferences. They were always pushing extra behind even when it was out, and all of a sudden it's just like nothing. So I know they had a pretty decent player base at the start, and people actually spoke pretty positively about it as well. And as said, that the gameplay was harkening back to sort of more old school Call of Duty, where it sort of took out all the other fluff and it was just a simple shooter. And I had some fun with it, but at the moment, it's off my console. I need space for other games to go on there. But I don't see how it's going to come back, especially with Call of Duty only a week away as well, and by all accounts, looking like a pretty good one at that.
Yeah, I put about 3 hours, I want to say, into the beta. I put 1.5, maybe 2 hours into the game once it actually launched, but it did absolutely nothing for me. I went, oh yeah, more of the same. No thanks, moving on. So I can totally understand why the players have abandoned it. They just, from my opinion, they just brought nothing new to the table. It was just a cookie cutter of so many other games, and very much to your point, I'm still playing last year's Call of Duty multiplayer. I'm not looking for a new shooter.
And that's what it's going up against, really, is the yearly release of multiplayer Call of Duty, and it's chalk and cheese, the two of them. I know it had potential, but the reality is the gameplay mechanics and the smoothness of Call of Duty and how it plays is just obliterates this game. So I don't know. To be fair, I don't know what was going through their head when they thought they were going to try and compete with it.
Yeah, crazy idea. There's just nothing there for me anyway. But I can understand it going. My money's on it'll go pretty rapidly from the stores. I think they'll pull it. Bully, do you happen to have a physical copy? Because that is about to shoot up in value.
I don't think they actually released a physical copy, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think they did either.
Disappointingly, we're talking about failed shooters. I wish I had got a copy of Concord now, but
yeah,
unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. But there has been some discussion they're going to try and bring that back. I don't know. Maybe
I was going to say, does it come back? I reckon you need to bring that back, but it's going to have to be a completely different game, maybe even with a single player mode. I don't know what you do to resurrect that game.
I was advising him it'd be cut and run.
Well, I think the problem is they've sunk 300 million into it. They can't.
Why sink any more money into it? It's clearly a broken game that no one wants. Move on.
I don't know. But
bring back Splinter Cell. How about that?
Oh, mate, you read my mind. I was going to say that before. It's like that's all they need to do to bloody get Ubisoft back on everyone's good books. Just finally bring out Splinter Cell. They put bloody Sam Fisher and everything else.
Just pump the brakes.
Pumping. Should we move on to news story 2, Billy?
Move on.
Here we go. It's hopefully on screen. Oh, I've nailed that. Go, Billy.
PS5 Pro. So there was a bit of conjecture about how that would be received and how it would be selling, but it is currently, even though it's still in a pre-order state, it is currently the best-selling console on Amazon as we speak. Oof. So I know that Xbox had fallen away fairly dramatically, and probably the Switch has to a large degree as well, given that we're probably going to get a new version within the next sort of 6 to 12 months. But the PS5 base model has still been plugging away quite good sales in that respect. So to have the Pro jump that in terms of sales already, I think it's a pretty good result for Sony for what a lot of people, obviously we spoke about it the other week with the price and what you get for your money, whether it's, it's always that diminishing returns of how much more tech can you put into a machine and how much you have to pay for it to what you get back. But the fact that it is selling so well despite that, it shows there's a fair bit of interest. And I would have thought that would have been the case, given that, again, as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, that the Pro, when it gets released, doesn't have a disk drive attached to it, but the actual physical disk drives that you could buy separately to attach to it are pretty much around the world sold out. So that was a fair indication. So I'm I'm surprised that it's sold this well. I think the PS4 Pro was about 10 to 15 million in sales. So how that ends up stacking up with a PS5 Pro, I'm not sure, but all indications are that it's tracking pretty well sales wise. And we're still 3 weeks prior to release.
And that was a slow burn, if memory serves, on the PS4 Pro. It sold slow to begin with, and then word got out, and off she took sales-wise.
Yeah, and it might be that sort of case that people were a bit unsure of what the PS4 Pro was, and we'd never had that mid-cycle re-release of a console in an upgraded form. How good was it going to be in terms of the base model? Do you really need to expend that money, etc., etc.? But having seen that, and then we've obviously seen quite a few websites. Digital Foundry was the main one I sort of looked at.
Yep.
They got their hands on it fairly early, and we're going through the different schematics of it, and they sort of based on their gameplay and review of it, gave it the thumbs up that it's worth the price if you can afford it. Obviously, it's a luxury item. It's not something you need to have. It's a nice to have sort of thing. So, the indications are that it's there. So you put all that together with the knowledge of how a mid-cycle refresh works, and it's probably doing wonders for the sales. So my only issue is that I wish they had have released more of the 30th anniversary models.
Yeah.
But is what it is, I suppose.
It is. I like the look of it, but back to your sort of original point there, Billy. It's the number one selling game console currently on Amazon, but have they ever stipulated a number, units sold?
For the Pro?
PS5 Pro, yeah.
No, they haven't at this stage, but no, all I've given what I can see here is that it's sitting number 7th in terms of the video games category overall as well. So that includes obviously, disc sales and all the rest of it. So even that's pretty good when you consider
absolutely.
Some of the games that have been coming through recently. It's obviously the Christmas season for gamers is September through to November, December in terms of the releases. So we've had some pretty big releases over the last couple of weeks, and to have the console that's not out for another couple of weeks sitting at number 7 overall, even that's indicative of sort of where I'd be guesstimating that you're probably looking at. I would have thought if you're just looking at Amazon, maybe you're probably looking at 4 to 5 million on that through Amazon, and that's obviously not including that a lot of areas could only get it through PlayStation Direct if you have that service, or other retailers that are now cropping up and you can order off there. So, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at 10 million on release. But
a bit annoying though that it's not out like this week, because you've got 2 of the biggest releases this year being Dragon Age and Call of Duty coming out, and the new console's not out yet. So it's frustrating as a consumer of these games, and I'm going to have to whether do I buy these or do I hold off a week and then purchase them and install them on the new console? I don't know what to do.
Well, I've sort of been the same. It's even not just this week. It's games over the last couple of weeks that are getting the upgrade that you sort of go, well, I don't really want to get into them if in 3 or 4 weeks' time I can play a much better version of it. So,
but let me pitch it to you this way, fellas. If you do go hands-on this week and then in a couple of weeks you get the PS5 Pro, you'll be able to come back on the show and tell us all about how impressive the upgrade is or isn't.
Well, I've got my backlog of games sitting there as well that I want to go through and replay that they've told us are getting the enhancements. We've got The Last of Us and Ratchet and Clank and all those sort of, even Gran Turismo, I've fired up and got the wheel out to do a bit of that, and then was reading through the list. And, oh no, that's getting the upgrade on the Pro. Now I'll put all that, I'll uninstall it, put everything away again, and I'll come back in a couple of weeks' time and have a crack at Gran Turismo. So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, but I think I'm just going to hold off and just play it on the new console, I think.
Total tech query here, but I wonder if you installed it to the expanded drive in your current PS5, and then when you get the Pro, take the expanded drive out and put it in the Pro. Is it that simple? That was my question.
I had the exact same thought. I hope that's the case. I hope, if anything, it does like some formatting thing, but it doesn't delete all the stuff off that hard drive. I'm hoping you can just literally take it out, pop it in, and then
that'd be
you've
nice.
Got your games and then any updates. I've gone and looked at it. I was literally had that thought today, and I start Googling this stuff and see if that is an option or whether they've actually released whether that happens. Bully, do you know anything about that?
I haven't seen, but I'd be the same, because I think the day or two beforehand, I'm just going to start loading. If that's the case, I'm just going to start installing and loading up everything that I want to play on the Pro on the the internal SSD and just rip it out and or the expansion bay and throw it into the new one. But
the only problem I've got then is trying to pull the bloody plates up on PS5 without trying to feel like I'm going to snap the whole bloody thing off. Like every time, I know there's an easy way to do it. You watch YouTube videos, it just slides off. I'm like, no, it doesn't just slide off. I'm going to break the fucking thing.
Go for it. I think I sent you a photo a while back of me fixing my PSVR unit. Mine is a monstrosity now. I say go for it. Rip it apart.
Rip it apart.
No, I just had a quick Google there, and I don't think it just tells you how to do it. It doesn't tell you whether it's going to transfer over. So it might need a bit more digging around with that one, I think.
I know it comes with extra hard drives, but I think it comes with 2 terabytes now, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I could definitely see a way they could implement piracy or copyright restrictions. Like if you install one that they just mandatory wipe it just to avoid a piracy hole. So I could see them blocking it for a reason. But
I'd be happy if there was like an online trigger that go, we just have to re-verify online. Fair. Going back to the old Xbox One nonsense release. But,
even maybe network cable from your old to your new and transfer it that way. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Speculation.
We'll work it out.
Kicking a third door for me, please, Bully.
The third door, and this is what I told you to pump your brakes. I had a report during the week. Splinter Cell is we saw, I think 2021, I should say, is that there was some rumor that it was being developed. We did get a bit of a splash screen at one of the video game conferences, but it's been dark since then. And Ubisoft maybe trying to get a bit of I don't know, can you do it this way? I don't know. Maybe Ubisoft trying to get a bit of goodwill back into the company. I'm not sure, but they've come
goodwill hunting
and certainly told us that it is still ongoing. They haven't got a release date yet, but certainly that they are still working on it. It's using the Ubisoft Snowdrop engine, which was the same one that they used for Star Wars Outlaws. Take that as a good thing or bad thing, I'm not sure. Hopefully they've refined it a little bit, but still on the way, and hopefully I would have thought the way they're going, that's probably, if that was, if I had anything to do with the company, I'd be making that a priority over the endless Assassin's Creed games and all the rest of it. Even if it's maybe mid to late next year, I think that's where I'd really be prioritizing my time, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we need another game like Metal Gear Solid 5. If we can do a Splinter Cell in a sort of semi-open world and with the gameplay that, we know and love from Splinter Cell, it'd be awesome. I remember playing, I think it was Ghost Recon Breakpoint, where they introduced Sam Fisher in that, and I just played as Sam Fisher the whole time and gave me my Splinter Cell fantasy. But even that was just fun to do that as the character, and he actually was in that game as an older version of that character. You can't look his skin, and that was so much fun. I just think they're sort of leaving a lot on the table by not having Splinter Cell out. It's just Xbox is now bringing back Gears of War, and I think it's about time Splinter Cell has its resurgence as well.
Lambert.
Yeah, well, I think that was. I remember back in the day, that was the game. The original Splinter Cell was the game that sold me on an Xbox. Because I'd been PlayStation for years and Nintendo before that, and really didn't have much interest in the Xbox until one of my mates goes, "No, you've got to get an Xbox and try Splinter Cell. It is amazing."
And the first time you do the splits up in a wall and you shoot down as the guy walks underneath you. Troy, if you've got the goals there, can you show us how the splits works as well?
No, sorry, I'm not your man for that. I reckon you'd be able to pull it off though, wouldn't you, Unky?
Oh no, I'm not that flexible.
Well, you got the door space behind you. Jump up.
Maybe next time. Got to stretch. This whole body needs to stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I would jump up behind me, but I'd end up in the Yarra, so hard pass.
Ooh, nobody wants that.
No, thanks. I haven't had my shots recently. I love it. Bring it back. Please come quickly. Bully, story 4.
And we had been told about it coming from PlayStation, but the new Astro bot levels dropping probably a little bit differently. So instead of just releasing them as a bulk lot with the speed run levels and all that sort of stuff, they are doing it as free DLC, dropping on a weekly basis starting today, I believe, is the
genius.
Is the first lot that
hasn't hit yet. I was on there before. I haven't seen an update just yet.
Well, they're saying October 17 is I assume that's American, so tomorrow for us.
Yeah, tomorrow for us.
Us poor backward Aussies. So they haven't sort of really gone into it, but the titles they're releasing are Building Speed is tomorrow. Next week is Let It Slide, Spring Loaded Run, Helium Heights, and Rising Heat. So I assume that's the speed run challenges for each of those worlds that they're dropping through over the next 4 or 5 weeks as well. And they're all just in time for.
I was in time for me because I think I'm in the final level / boss as we speak. As of tonight.
Bonus.
Yep.
And then you're going to have, addition to that, you're going to have some new bots to rescue as well, and online leaderboards for the times that you can run through there. And I don't know if you've gone through the sort of some of the, I guess you call it post game sort of stuff, Funky, where you got to do those runs through the levels, and if you die, you restart back.
Like the square, circle, X, and triangle.
They get quite difficult.
Oh, mate, I reckon I did one of the triangle levels. I reckon I was on it for 40 minutes, where I just, I was so close so many times, and my God, it was so frustrating. But I got there eventually, and the sense of achievement from that, it was like it's up there with Dark Souls and Elden Ring, I reckon, for difficulty.
Well, the only sense you get from achievement is EA Games and Battlefront, isn't
it? Is this game, is one of the patches, like the weekly patches, will that drop the same day as the PS5 Pro launch? Calendar, same day of the week?
Yes, November 7th.
So you've got to expect that day they would be releasing the in-game PS5 Pro little model and everything.
Oh, surely. And a level to go along with it, I reckon.
Yeah, but that'll be the only way I'll be able to get the 30th anniversary look, I reckon. The in-game tiny model you can rotate.
Well, how good would that be? Because the whole premise of this game is to rebuild your PS4 spaceship and put it back together. How good would it be if there was an extra level, not to the same extent as a full game, but another world or galaxy that you could go through and quickly rebuild the PS5 Pro? That'd be amazing if they dropped another half a dozen levels at us. I'd be very happy with that.
I'd put that one in the prediction book. I reckon we got a good chance of that happening on what is the official launch date of the PS5 Pro? I'm blanking.
November 7th.
Bingo. Put it in the book somewhere.
Give it to me.
I love it.
Give it to me. That was one of the greatest weekends I've had this year was Friday night to Sunday night and getting the platinum in that game.
Beautiful work, mate. Had it, lost it. Sorry, Unky, any other thoughts?
No, not really. Just the PS5 Pro is just the day after the wife's birthday. I don't know which one I'm looking more forward to.
And she's looking forward to her birthday present of a PS5 Pro, isn't she?
That's why I got 2.
Oh, here you go, Dale. Here's your 30th anniversary edition.
Here's the credit card statement.
Here's your present, divorce paperwork.
And you don't even have to wait till your birthday. Excellent work, fellas. Let's bring this home, shall we? No, Bully, please tell me anything in that there YouTube chat.
We do have a bit of chat. We can welcome back Sean Games and Tigaro. We've both been pretty active in there, but Sean Games has got a couple of recommendations. Squirrel with a Gun, I think, that dropped today. I think I was looking at it. The physical comes out next week or the week after, I think. I think it was sort of the it sort of looks that similar sort of vein to the Goat Simulator type games where it's a bit out there, bit of, you run around as a squirrel with a gun, funnily enough.
Speaking of Goat Simulator, do you guys see they're doing a full remake or remaster of the first game?
That's coming out to me as well.
Next month.
There you go.
As DLC for number 3, or it's complete standalone?
Complete standalone, like completely redone, like in the graphics of number 3. So from someone who's done all the DLC for number 3 and played through absolutely every bit of content in that game with my little fella, we cannot wait for the remaster of the old one.
One of my young blokes has done everything in the original Goat Simulator, so he'll be lit up tomorrow morning when I let him know that that's coming. He'll be very excited.
And just in there as well, I did have a question from Tigaro. Have any of you guys played the newest Dragon Ball game, which I'm trying to find the name of it, does escape me.
Sparking Zero, is it?
Yeah, that's the one, Sparking Zero. He's after a recommendation for his young fella to play that one. I haven't, but I did have a quick look at the reviews, and it seems to be reviewing pretty well.
It's reviewing well. It's more of a fighting game. There's less of the Buddha occasionally open world stuff. I saw Tagara playing some Dragon Ball stuff during the week and stuff, and it almost got me over the line. That it's, again, if I wasn't so sucked into Metaphor, then I was almost considering just chucking the old purchase through for that as well. But I'm probably one of those ones, as soon as I can see it go on PlayStation Plus or even a Game Pass, something like that, and then I'll just pick it up and have some fun with it. Just, I don't have the time right now. But no, it definitely does look good. And if you're into Dragon Ball and you like that stuff, then I can absolutely recommend it with all the other videos and reviews I've seen on it.
Well,
We might have to get Ace in. I know he's a huge Dragon Ball head. I bet he's already gone hands-on with it. So if we need insights on the channel, maybe we can rope him in.
We'll have to see where we go with that. And just to wrap it up, we do have a couple of requests in there.
I hope it's for chanting.
No, there's
I've done
no,
that already.
there's no chanting, and there's no there was no. I'm trying to remember the song. I think it was forget it. The two requests are: can we bring back the weekly game releases? That was one of them.
Oh,
and
yeah, fair call.
and the other one is someone out there is also missing the standoff, which I did try to say it was we're trying to slim it down a little bit, the show, so it doesn't run as long. And the other
Troy
part
doesn't run quite as late getting the show ready.
there was that, and the other part of it is that it was actually becoming quite painful to come up with a topic. So unless you want to go back to which has the better bush, I don't know.
Down in San Diego, wasn't it?
Well, if you want, I mean, they're missing the weekly releases, there's a few things out this week. I mean, tomorrow we're talking about it before the show. There's a new Ninja Turtles game based on the Mutant Mayhem game coming out tomorrow as well.
I'll tell you what,
very
let's do one
excited
real
for.
time. Let's do one real time. I believe I have the technology.
There we go. You'll be able to tell us what's coming out. I mean, we're at the end of the week anyway. That's another reason why it's very hard to do games releasing this week, because most of them are usually out by the time we get to Thursday anyway, although we do have a lot of Friday releases as well. So, no, there's a few things out this week, which hopefully Troy will be able to tell us.
Oh, yeah, I'm pedaling as fast as I can.
That's all right. I've got them up here. So you got Turtles, you got Hot Wheels, Monster Truck Stunt, Mayhem, whatever that is. One you'll be looking forward to, Unky, is Heavy Cargo Simulator, which comes out tomorrow as well.
Is that tomorrow? I totally lost track of time. I
Oh no! Take Metaphor out and get into that. You've got
Yes.
Unknown 9 Awakening also out tomorrow. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the game, which, as we were discussing before, is that sort of isometric 1v4 type Dead by Daylight type of game. Is to my understanding.
Although I think this is 1v6, which makes it even harder to get into a game because you know a lot of people play 7 people you need per game. So I'm not sure what the player base is like for that game.
Does make it very difficult. And then you've got one I've been looking forward to. I know you guys have played it some time ago, but coming out early next week is the Alan Wake 2 Deluxe Edition, the physical copy of that. So I can finally, 12 months down the track, that sells, because my understanding is that the digital version didn't sell that well overall, and they were pretty disappointed with the overall sales. So now that they've released a physical version, it'd be interesting to see how the sales sort of stack up in that sort of space. I know most people are going digital these days, but you know, quite often they might not have the awareness unless they're looking at, you know, websites that are selling it. So hopefully they get a bump with it there, because I think from what you guys have said, it's a fantastic game.
Amazing. And you might be able to tell me, Billy, do a quick check. I'm pretty sure the new DLC for it, the Lake House,
comes out the same day. Yep.
Hey, there you go. So that's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, 22nd of October.
Ooh,
and it
can't
does
wait.
just, I think that was the bonus of it, because I was trying to have a look at the digital version. Seems to be a bit more expensive in terms of the price, an extra $20 or $30. And I couldn't find anywhere cheaper than that. And that's the reason. It's because it's got the DLC attached to the disc. I don't know if it's on the disc, but it's certainly, you get access to it when you do buy the physical version of it as well.
Awesome.
So there you go. There you go. To Sean Games, you got a ad hoc game release schedule.
I scrambled as quick as I could, fellas. It's the best I've got. I'm sorry. It's not great. Good, not great. 7 out of 10.
IGN reviewed you, did that?
Yeah, and I didn't slip in a couple of mil.
We'll endeavour to be a bit more squared away with that one for you, Sean, and have a bit more insight of the games that are releasing on next week's show. But thanks for jumping into the chat. It's great to see that we're getting some more people jumping in there, and well, as I speak, Sean's jumped in there and said, "Oh, I forgot Black Ops 6, which is also coming out, I think Friday next week." So
24th.
Can't wait for that one either. But great to see, as I said, great to see people jumping in the chat now that we're back up and running, and hopefully we can get some more people in there and joining in with the show.
I love it. Good work, everyone. We are off duty. Unky Dunky, thank you, sir. As always, excellent episode, mate. I love everything about it. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, mate.
Bully, fantastic work patrolling the chat and kicking in the newsroom doors for me, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this week. We'll be back next week. Installs, as always, up on the channel. Dead Rising and the DLC for Diablo 4 was up today. Bully, what else could you do with the channel?
Like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck.
Hey, that's something. Old Uncle Donkey. Donkey.